As society's understanding of neurodivergence evolves, so too does the representation seen in modern film and television. We've come a long way from the old-fashioned portrayals of characters seen as slow or simple, but have the stereotypes really disappeared, or simply changed? Hi, I'm Rudy. Some quick disclaimers and clarifications. I'm not an expert. I'm simply a curious mind interested in this topic, and all my sources will be cited at the end. Also, the term neurodivergent is typically used as an umbrella term for a wide range of mental health conditions and developmental disorders, although I'm choosing to specifically look at autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. Right now, there are 3 commonly identified forms of representation for characters on the spectrum that are either explicit or implicit. Canonical, or canon, the portrayal is intentional and part of the story, and the character's plot points often revolve around a diagnosis. This form can split into 2 between on-screen and off-screen confirmation. Headcanon, the characters either heavily implied to be neurodivergent or fans have identified recognizable traits, but any official diagnosis remains ambiguous. Allegorical, or coded, where the characters' narratives and experiences match neurodivergent people's, but they're not actually part of that group. In many cases, these are alien characters or those with fish-out-of-water syndrome, where the context of their surroundings and stories is more what influences the portrayal. We can scale these types of representation by their intentions and subjectivity, and how much of it is up to audience interpretation. Most of the time, a character's neurodivergence is identified by the traits we associate them with. Obviously, these are varying factors, and the diversity within neurodivergent communities, audiences, and characters means there will always be some level of nuance. Autistic people are all different, so ideally, representation will be different too. This should be the ultimate goal. But the matter of stereotyping exists all around, even in modern psychology studies, from how the rest of society might view those that are different, to the diagnostic criteria itself existing in a historical context based on gendered and racialized experiences. Portrayals of autistic characters are often based on these stereotypes, or simply non-existent. So what exactly makes representation good or bad? I believe it's more complicated than that. To help see the different types of forms a little clearer, I'll be looking at 4 characters from movies and TV and diving into what they portray and how. Number 1, we have Dr. Sean Murphy from The Good Doctor, 2017. Our first character is a classic case of a very intentional and canonical portrayal of a young man on the spectrum. Dr. Sean Murphy is our surgeon protagonist of the medical drama The Good Doctor. It's stated from the beginning that he's autistic, and most of the show's initial plot points revolve around his experiences and those of the characters around him. He's portrayed in a way that arguably represents the most generally stereotyped version of someone on the spectrum. He's socially awkward but highly intelligent, has special interests, and communication difficulties that interfere with his life. He also has visible meltdowns that are acted decently well, despite what ableist meme culture tries to consider funny. The actor himself has confirmed that while he's neurotypical, aka not autistic, he conducted his own research and portrayed this character in line with a lot of the traits one would use to diagnose someone in the present day. That being said, it's important to note that there's plenty of research that considers the diagnostic criteria outdated. Not necessarily incorrect, but when they were first conducting their studies back in the day, they were primarily looking at your standard white cis man, and lacking in a more diverse demographic in which different people have different manifestations of different traits. Autism is a very wide spectrum after all. This doesn't mean that Dr. Murphy is bad representation. There are plenty of people who might feel seen in the character that deserve to feel represented. The show was still a pretty big deal considering how rare it is to have an openly autistic main protagonist. But it can also be true that this is just the beginning, and people with different experiences of autism deserve to be seen too. Number 2, Newt Scamander from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, 2016. Our next case is similar to the first, but Newt Scamander is slightly more ambiguous when it comes to any kind of diagnosis. While nothing is ever directly stated in the films he appears in, the actor Eddie Redmayne has expressed his intentional portrayal of certain traits.
Speaking of Newt, can you talk about his mannerisms a bit, especially kind of his sort of reluctance to make eye contact? Because I know some fans think that he's on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
And that's not something we see very, especially in a positive way.
Yeah, no, when he was first described by Joe in the first film, there were various qualities. The way he walked, the way he looked was very, and his eye contact was sort of almost spoken about. And Yeah, I think he is on the Asperger's spectrum. At that point, it hadn't been defined. It was in the 40s, I think, that autism was defined. So those qualities were something that, yeah.
Just because the story is set in a time where autism wasn't really recognized, it doesn't mean there weren't still people observed to be a little different from societal norms. Newt makes very little eye contact, has strong affinity for animals over social interactions, and is considered a little odd by those around him. These are all intentionally portrayed traits, and although it might not be official, fans that see themselves in the character are able to find their positive representation of someone who's curious, intelligent, and highly empathetic. Number 3, Lilo from Lilo and Stitch, 2002. Lilo is a more uniquely portrayed character that falls into the headcanon category. The titular protagonist of Disney's animated feature is lovable and caring, even if she has troubles connecting with her peers. She has rigid routines, some social communication difficulties, and struggles with emotional regulation, and is seen as eccentric by many around her. She has her special interest in Elvis and photography, and although she feels often isolated, her deep bond with her companion Stitch transcends any in her day-to-day life, in spite of any language barriers. Many fans have identified these traits as flags for her potential autism, and so she's become a popular headcanon. There's not nearly enough research going into how autism is viewed in marginalized and racialized communities, how children might be punished for things out of their control and swept under the rug. Studies from the National Autistic Society in the UK identified some reasons for the diagnostic gap, including challenges in getting diagnosed due to a lack of understanding in some communities, language barriers in support services, communication difficulties with professionals due to a cultural disconnect, and disabilities being stigmatized and blamed on parents or a misbehaving child. These factors can all lead to denial and isolation, in which a child's difficulties are told to remain private and support for families is lost. While never expressly diagnosed, Lilo is often uttered in her community without anyone looking further into why she might be acting the way she does. Of course, a big part of this is the tragic loss of her parents and the difficult position her family is left in. But the experience is similar to many others who find comfort in solidarity with how it's portrayed on screen. And the reminder that different backgrounds and environments affect us just as much as our inner worlds do. Number 4. Giselle from Enchanted, 2007. Our very first live-action Disney princess can be placed into the autistic coded category. As stated previously, coded generally means that a character's non-specific traits and characteristics could be interpreted as an allegory for an autistic experience. The key word is could. As in Giselle's case, she's quite literally a fairy tale character accidentally transported from the fantasy realm into our real one. So many of her quirky tendencies can just be attributed to being a part of her character from a fictional world. But there's still a lot to identify as traits autistic people may be able to relate to. She's hyper-expressive, has a strong affinity for animals, even her consistent love for singing aligns with those who often do so as a form of stimming to self-regulate. What sticks out to me, though, is her disconnect with the real world. She's lost and confused in a society that's nothing like what she's used to, seeking help in the streets and forced to reckon with modern day's lack of empathy for a stranger. As part of this, the people around her view her as naive and ditzy. This speaks to a common experience, particularly amongst autistic women, who struggle with a different understanding of the world than their peers. Many are seen as childish for their mannerisms and intense interests, and are often ridiculed until they feel forced to fit into societal standards. The gendered experience of autism is a complicated one, and an issue that has many debates on many sides. At its core, we can point out that statistics show men are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed as autistic. In the present day, this is slowly changing, but women are still more often diagnosed much later in life after hiding their traits to better fit in, aka masking, and going under the radar for years on end. More studies have identified the fact that the diagnostic criteria skews heavily towards men and quote-unquote male behavioral patterns, with initial studies failing to include a wide enough range that there might be some differences in how autistic traits are presented and perceived by the public, even though the condition in itself is not different by sex. Gendering the experience of neurodivergence by claiming autistic men and women are inherently different often only leads to a reinforcing of stereotypes formed by a traditional and likely outdated understanding of the criteria. Additionally, it ignores the very real statistics that there's a lot of overlap between neurodivergent people and those who consider themselves gender diverse. In fact, they're 3 to 6 times more likely to be autistic than cisgender people, but that topic is worthy of a whole separate essay. So, what's the conclusion here? I think it's hard to decide what makes representation good or bad. As per definition, it should technically just be a matter on if the representation is true to real life and well received. But because autism is such a wide spectrum, the portrayals should and will be just as diverse, making it hard to define what's positive or negative when it's all highly subjective. It's still very common for a canon representation to focus heavily on portraying those with high support needs, and while this is still very necessary to be seen in open conversation, it could disregard the variance in the kind of support people need. There can also still be a lot of inherent ableism, both explicit and implicit, through this stereotyping. However, more recent portrayals are more likely to include the nuance people have been asking for. Where I believe a lot of representation succeeds is in exploring the nature of autistic people's relationships with the world. Often, the characters are used as either a burden or a savior purely to drive the plots and evoke sympathy with an audience. And there's missed opportunities to educate when the focus is on specific characteristics rather than the social and environmental barriers that affect real people's lives. But the different types of portrayals explored today prove that there's a lot more than might be immediately seen on the surface. Even when it's not explicit, people feel seen when there's a diverse array of characters and traits to relate to. And although there's a long road of further scientific and social study ahead, I believe the more we listen to audiences, the more we can hope for a positive outlook of a community that deserves to not be hidden, but embraced. Bye, friends.